I'm going to call the City Council Urban Affairs Committee to order. It's June 17th. It's a little past 7:30. We have two items on our agenda. I'm going to take them out of the listing here. We're going to begin with order number 26-109-747, the application for modification of a special permit from Matthew Donnelly on behalf of Target to amend condition number 9, signage requirements to increase the wall signage from 3 to 4 for the Target located at 423 Donald J. Lynch Boulevard. So Mr. Donnelly, if you'd like to come up to the well. The city clerk did put your PowerPoint back on the screen, so if anybody needs to refer to it, or if anybody brought their copies that we were given at the public hearing that we had on the 8th, it might be helpful. I know you were all given a communication also that came from the city solicitor late today. I am going to begin quickly going through, as required for special permits, comments from department heads. So we had really no comment from the engineering department, the fire department, the police department, conservation, or the Board of Health. The building department, Commissioner Payton indicated that the 4 new signs will have a total new aggregate area of plus or minus 422 square feet. Will Target need to reduce the size of the signs to meet the 300 square foot maximum, or will the City Council allow the increase of the aggregate area? So based on the comments from the solicitor's office that I think everybody received, because the project proposes flat wall signs with an aggregate of 421.46 square feet of variance from section 520 board, which unfortunately was not relayed to the applicant until this evening. So I apologize for the confusion in all of this, but I don't know if you have any comments before we begin. We do have the decision on the amendment to a special permit. The decision on the amendment to a special permit, order number 26-109-747. We have the procedural findings of facts, which really lists the business of the company and 1000 Nicollet Mall in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The applicant's a tenant at 423 Donald J. Lynch Boulevard. On May 6, 2002, the council voted to grant the special permit authorizing New England Development to conduct and operate a retail store, shop, service establishment, and restaurant pursuant to Section 217C1 and Section 217E. On April 30th, 2026, the applicant filed with the city clerk an application to modify condition number 9 to increase the wall signage from 3 to 4 signs. In connection with the application, the applicant submitted a certified list of abutters, the filing fees, and the site plans. The applicant was certified by the building commissioner, acting on behalf of the city planner, as having complied with Rule 4 and pursuant to the rules and regulations of the city council. The city council established a date for a public hearing on the application, and the city clerk advertised the public hearing. That public hearing was held on Monday, June 8th, and the hearing was closed. The applicant, through its representatives, presented testimony detailing the change in hours, describing its impact upon municipal services, the neighborhood, and traffic. I think detailing the change in signs, not hours. At the public hearing, no members of the public spoke about the use or submitted written comments, and the procedural findings specified above supplement those made at the original special permit. So based on all of that, the City Council takes the following action. The applicant has complied with the rules and regulations promulgated by the City Council. For the issuance of the special permit, the City Council finds that the increase in wall signage is an appropriate use and in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. City Council incorporates by reference finding E in the original special permit and amended special permit And the City Council pursuant to its authority under Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, and the zoning ordinance grants the applicant an amendment to modify condition number 9 as follows. By deleting condition number 9A in its entirety and inserting in its place the following: 9A, wall signage, 4 signs not to exceed 300. So I know in the detail that was also sent with the solicitor's letter was a file that was given to the building department that had some signs that were really window signs that we don't need to deal with at all. I think what we need has the language of, where is it? Drive up. And you probably have a copy of this. I know it's confusing to me because the front page has where it looks like this drive-up sign is going on the front of the Target building. But then further in, it looks like it's going on the side of the building. I'm looking at page, none of the pages are marked, but it has the big picture of the drive-up. And it says generic partial elevation, note placement can vary. So it's this page?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, can you make sure that that button is lit so it's...
Sorry.
Thank you. So this picture really isn't a definitive picture of where it's going.
Correct.
It really
No, that is
will
just-
go where you have it on the wall.
Yes, that is just a generic detail.
Because we
and-
usually reference documents, and I don't know if we need to specify 4 signs as designated on the design package of May 10th, 2025. I'm looking at our council president, President Hossing.
So, Madam Chair, so the solicitor will make sure that the correct drawings are referenced as part of the package, if that's where they are. I mean, if those are the right sign, because we need the dimensions and locations for the signs, and, because that's what will become part of the special permit.
All right, because the original language was actually a little more 100 square feet in the aggregate. So this now just says 4 signs. It doesn't say where they are. So I don't know if we need to keep it with what's currently there: 2 signs located over the store entrances, 1 pharmacy sign, and 1 sign reading, what did I just say it was called? Rather than just simply 4 signs. Does that make sense? I don't know if anybody else looked up the original special, or I think there was a copy floating around of the special permit in 2002. Get rid of the and do a comma. 1 pharmacy sign and 1 sign reading drive up. Or signifying, I don't know, we'll let him.
Madam Chair.
Counselor Fucillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question on that note. I mean, I'm comfortable with that addition, right? Making sure that we clarify what signs in particular, but I guess, the special permit before us is the deletion of condition 9A, the wall signage. So that would completely eliminate 4 signs not to exceed 300 square feet. I guess my question is, are we losing control of the square footage if the language just includes what kind of signs? Or?
No, because it still is in there. The current language says the 2 signs, 1 pharmacy sign, not to exceed 300 square feet in the aggregate. So we're already over the 300 feet, which is why they need to go for the variance.
Okay.
Because they didn't ask us, and I don't know if we can put in here the current aggregate.
Okay.
All we're doing is changing the number of signs. This total square feet, I think, is in the zoning.
Okay.
which is why the solicitor said they needed to get the variance, because they're over that.
And just one final question, Madam Chair, if I may. So as it exists now, though, they are able to have 4 signs.
They are able to have 3 signs, 2 signs located over the store entrance and 1 pharmacy sign. That's 3.
Okay.
They want 4. So the 4th one would be that drive-up sign. Because they also have the freestanding pylon, which is a different language.
Not included in this.
It's not
Okay.
included in this change, but it's currently in the code or in the special permit, and as long as they don't change the height or the square feet per side of that sign, they're good to go. Because I know there's a picture of the pylon sign in one of these drawings.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Counselor Navin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in agreement with the way, still a little confused, just on the purpose of the drive-up sign. Is this particular Target West, are they changing the way that drive-up orders are done? So right now, if I order on the app, I go to the parking space with the assigned number on it.
Approved to be, I'm not sure exactly where in the parking lot it is at the moment, but it is going to be moved kind of right in front of where this sign is going to be.
Right now it's on the other side. It's like
It's going to be moved to where that sign is going to be, so.
And that'll and the spots now will just be returned to regular parking spots for customers?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so to follow up on that, because I had the same concern. Currently, the whole front of the drive in front of Target is marked no parking, fire,
Yep.
use, whatever. So cars can't pull up and park there. So how will you be able to load?
So
restricted.
in the parking lot itself, we're going to convert some of the stalls that are in front of the building to be the new drive-up stalls, and then the existing drive-up stalls we're going to convert back to regular stalls.
So they're just going to be closer to the building,
Correct.
but nobody's going to be pulling up below that sign expecting somebody to walk out and load their car.
Correct. No, we're going to have multiple other kind of indicators that we'll have, and then we're also going to have stalls that have the number at the top of the stall that will be correspondent to the order number that they have on their phone, and then they'll be able to come in and then pull into that stall and get their order delivered to them.
Okay, and I'm sure that if it becomes an issue, it'll be,
Sure, thank you so much. So, in my view, I think the signage is a bit excessive, and, moving forward, if we do approve this, it will set a precedence for Target and for other businesses. To me, that drive-up is very self-explanatory right now. If it's moved to the side, that drive-up sign is not visible from the street, right? I don't know if you're familiar with the locations, but the Target is set back in a parking lot off of a pretty fast main road. There's one entrance, so I'm not sure who it's gonna benefit having that extra sign there. If you do have pylons in the parking lot, I think that would be more effective than having an extra sign thrown on the building. Just kind of curious as to if you guys had considered the actual views and sight lines off the road.
Closer to it, but when they're trying to navigate the parking lot itself, this will kind of give them guidance and not kind of create, traffic jams within the parking lot, trying to find those stalls where they are. There's kind of be like a elongated signage where you can see where the stalls are generally, and then as you get closer, you'll be able to see the stalls themselves.
Yeah, because if I'm familiar with this, as you're driving up to that Target from the entrance at the light, you are actually facing that door where you want to put the new drive-up sign already. So that area is already visible to anyone driving up.
The existing or the proposed?
Yes, the existing area. So, again, I don't know who it's going to benefit entirely. If there's already designated parking spots, there's pylons, there's lots of markings where cars go, I don't think this really necessitates another sign on the building itself.
Yeah, I think it's just for mostly that when the customers pull into the lot itself, they'll be able to find the stalls a lot easier than trying to find these beacons that aren't going to be as visible as a sign would, and then it would create less traffic jams and things like that within the parking lot.
Any further questions? Counselor Fatillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one follow-up question. I know just across town at Boston Post Road East, right, is our other target location in the city. Just looking at like GIS and looking at the mapping, I can't see if there's this drive-up sign there, but is there a similar sign at the other target location in the city, or?
There's not yet.
But it seems like this is something that's.
It has been approved and it will not violate a special permit, so we just haven't kind of gone through the process of that just yet.
But that location does currently service the drive-up with the beacon, right?
They do have a drive-up.
Okay.
They don't have they have one beacon at the moment. We're also going to do a remodel on that one as well, the drive-up stalls.
I was just curious, just for consistency across the board.
Yeah.
Just thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
As of right now, we haven't started the process of getting one there, but there is a drive-up, and yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Decal, which we don't have to approve because they aren't considered something that is necessary. So long as you don't cover too much of the window, there's an amount that where that goes. Councilor Fucillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and bear with me here. So we would be approving the 4 signs with the specific 4 signs with the language that you had referenced earlier,
Do you want me to read it again?
if you don't mind.
Wall signage, 2 signs located over store entrances, comma, 1 pharmacy sign, comma, 1 sign signifying drive-up, period. All signs will be located on the front elevation as shown on the plans dated May 10th, 2025.
So moved.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to amend and also then to change that one word of whatever it was that I had, number 9, the hours to signs, which is really just a typo, I think. To amend the amendment. All those in favor? All those opposed? And then all those in favor of the sign permit as amended? 3, and those opposed? All right, so Councilor Preciado. So as I had said to you, I will report this out at Monday's meeting, and then we don't meet again until July. So this has got to be referred to the solicitor so he can make sure that these changes are all in this draft in proper form. Okay. And then we will be voting on this at our July meeting. And the hope is that the planning board will have this on their agenda, and then the planning board meets before we do. So if they approve the variance, but we don't approve the amended special permit, then the variance is really null and void, I guess. So unfortunately, okay. So that's the next steps. Okay. And you need to reach out to the planning board to make sure that you fill out the paperwork and pay any fee that is required so that you're on the agenda. All right? Thank you very much for your patience. Next on our agenda is order number 109705, a communication from Attorney Robert C. Buckley on behalf of Redgate Real Estate Advisors, LLC, regarding a proposed zoning amendment to Chapter 650 zoning to add a new section to Elizabeth Bello from Redgate and Christine Hung from...
Reamer and Bronstein.
That's the attorney's office. All right. So we have the draft. We have the letter from the planning board. Attorney Buckley, I don't know if there's anything you want to bring up before we start. Again, I believe your information is also on the screen if anybody needs it, so.
First, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council. For the record, Robert Buckley, Christine Hung, my partner, and Elizabeth Bello from Redgate. We have our presentation that you saw at the council meeting. I don't know if you want us to go through it again, but we can refer to it. But I can also summarize why we're here and what we think that we're trying to accomplish. And that might be the most efficient way of doing it, if it pleases the chair.
Sure, that sounds good. I know it's up there, and I think everybody's got their copy. If
Right,
not,
we do
I
have- we passed
have a
out
big
hard
copy and a small
copies.
copy, so I can share.
I probably don't have to remind the council that, and if you read the press, and I'm sure you have applicants coming before you constantly, what a difficult time it is out there in the commercial sector right now, particularly with office and be it lab or any other components. But what has seemed to resonate, to the extent anything resonates in the marketplace right now, is the mixed-use concept, which we're trying to accomplish here and create a little vibrant pocket that would be self-contained and activated and hopefully result in stabilization of that area in the market and enhance the product and also the tax revenue for the city. So we patterned, again, I apologize, I know I told you I lost my tooth from 3 weeks, I was told today. I'll have it, so I won't be slurring my words, but I am going to look up that tackle from Yale because I think he's still alive. You have the executive residential overlay, so we use that as a template, so we weren't starting from scratch to reinvent something and introduce something that would require a tremendous amount of analysis. We have gone to the planning board. I thought the conversation was robust and very good, and by and large, we agree with the comments that the planning board has forwarded to the council with a couple caveats. Townhouses would eat up a lot of the land mass that we're trying to preserve as a natural buffer and create a natural amenity. But when you do separate standalone townhouses or string them together, it does eat up a lot of the land. But what we propose to do and what we would be willing to explore as we predicate, lack of a better term, a brown house in the, in the front, that instead of going into a hallway and down the hallway, if you're on the first floor, you may have direct entrance into your unit on the first floor. So to the outside, it would look like a townhouse, but it condenses it and preserves the open space, which is what we're trying to do. We feel strongly that the 450 is the appropriate number for purposes of financing and making it a reality. So we'd like to hold that number, but we would work at trying to provide a diverse living experience, and Elizabeth can talk to that if the council would like. And the second is on the height. We're fine with the height, but under the new building code, where Massachusetts has gone essentially all electric, most of the units now have separate heat pumps or heat units, and you don't want those on the ground. You want them on the roof. When the word 3 or 4 feet off the ground, but maybe screened, so you can have the 60-foot height with an additional mechanical area on the roof that's screened, so you really don't see it, but it would hold all the utilities that you'd have to have, because otherwise you're putting them on the ground and it looks horrible. It really does. And with the weather and the snow and everything, it causes more problems than they're worth. So the height we could live with subject to exclusion of the mechanicals on the roof that is appropriately screened, and I don't know what the height would be, probably 10 feet?
Actually,
5 feet, 5 to 10. So those are the two major issues, right?
the only thing was the delivery of the.
Oh, yeah. You press the, there you go. You want to bring it.
Apologies. The only thing that I would add is the delivery of a retail component of phase one. I mean, it's really difficult to commit to that because you control the market. But, I think the this is one of those things that we're more than happy to work with the council and continue to provide updates regarding our outreach efforts, marketing efforts, and how it's going. And hopefully, it does align.
All right, so let me read the planning board's comments as appropriate. Honorable President Ossian Councilors, at its regularly scheduled meeting on May 18th, 2026, the planning board took the following action. On a motion by Dr. Finby, seconded by Mr. Russ, the board voted to forward specific recommendations regarding the proposed zoning amendment to the City Council. The consensus of the board was to provide a generally favorable recommendation subject to the inclusion of the board's recommended modifications. The board provided the following responses relating to the board's four-pronged zoning standards. The board agreed that the proposal as currently presented has the potential to negatively impact neighboring properties. However, the board concluded that with appropriate modifications, the proposal could be in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, particularly considering the newer development along Lazat Drive. The board further agreed that the proposed zoning amendment is in its current draft form could negatively impact the neighbors. The board noted that with the modifications outlined below, the amendment could potentially mitigate those impacts. The board reached a consensus that the inclusion of townhomes and mixed-use components such as retail would provide a greater benefit to the city than a low-occupancy office building. The board also agreed that if properly modified, the zoning amendment would align with the intent and purposes of the city's zoning ordinance. The board provided the following recommendations. Limit the number of garden-style apartment units to 400, with the option to include up to an additional 50 townhome-style units. Increase the required perimeter property line setbacks from 20 feet to 50 feet while exempting existing structures from the revised setback requirement. Restrict building heights to the height of the existing structure or a maximum of 60 feet, inclusive of spires and towers. Remove the term public from section G2, as there will be no public ways created as a result of the new zoning. Require the incorporation of retail and mixed-use components as part of the construction of the first building phase. Encourage the inclusion of underground parking to reduce the extent of impervious surface. Encourage the development of publicly accessible walking trails and/or bicycle paths. Recommend that the developer conduct a balloon test to evaluate the potential visual impact of the surrounding area, and recommend that no demolition permit be issued until the special permit application is thorough. Signed, Sean Fay, Chairperson. So the zoning ordinance requires us to get an opinion from the planning board. What we do with it is up to the body. We have followed it sometimes. We have ignored it other times, but we'll see. Councilor Naaman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bob, just to clarify, so the proponent finds it, excuse me, finds the comments from the planning board acceptable except for the 50 townhomes and
We'd
the
like to have the
incorporating retail?
Yeah, we'd like to have the number 450, and the townhouses we'll try to incorporate. We can draft language to the effect that we'll work with the council. But 450 is the number from a financial standpoint that makes it real, and we think that we can achieve that separate, diverse housing feel by putting these things on first floor entry. But if you were to do 50 townhouses that are on a perimeter, it would eat up a lot of the open space that we're trying to preserve, which again provides a nice natural buffer to the roadways around. So that.
No, I understand. I want to make sure, as mentally as we're preparing to go through these one by one, I'm checking these off from the planning board saying, okay, these are good, these are good.
We agree with the concept, we just want to tweak it so that it works, and no one benefits if we do something that no one can execute, so.
That's correct.
And we think this would enhance the execution of this so that it would be attractive. And if you've been out there, the terrain, the topography drops off, so it creates some nice ambiance that we intend to incorporate into the overall plan. So.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, so I went through this looking at Results Way Mixed Use Overlay District rather
Post
than
mixed
the
use, I don't remember
residential
that.
overlay, which is, the language is almost similar except where they talk about their MUDs, where you have your terminology, a project and a phase. So it's similar, but there are some differences, so I've noted them where appropriate. So let's see, we begin with your draft pursuant to Chapter 40A of the General Laws, the City of Marlborough having received for its consideration changes in the zoning ordinance to further amend Chapter 650, now ordained Forest Street Residential Overlay District, allows the application of supplemental land use controls within the boundaries of a certain overlay district, subject to City Council approval, as an alternative to land use controls that exist in the underlying district. The establishment goals of the SFROD are to enhance land use development and encourage development to allow for the development of housing, retail, and workplaces within close proximity of each other, consistent with the stated economic development and smart growth objectives of the city. I will say, I've got my head down as I'm reading, so if anybody else has issues, please yell out and I will stop. B, the location of the FSROD development phasing for the purpose of this section, 650 number to be figured out. The FSROD is comprised of parcels identified on the city's assessor's maps as parcels 98, 91, 124, and 102-1, containing approximately 30.96 acres as indicated on the city zoning map and more particularly described and shown on Exhibit A annexed here to and incorporated by reference therein. Number 2, within the FSROD, there may be one or more phases of development. An applicant may submit a site plan and/or special permit application for the entire project, the FSRO project, or for one or more phases of the project, each a FSRO phase. The FSRO project or phase may consist of one or more parcels of land and may include any eligible use set forth in subsection D below, which may be commingled within a single structure or located in separate structures on one or more parcels. Parcels within the FSROD may be combined or subdivided and held under separate ownership or leaseholds. The FSRO project or the FSRO phase shall be subject to site plan approval. Number 3, upon the issuance of site plan and/or special permit approval for the FSRO project or phase on a parcel or parcels in the FSROD, this section shall govern said parcel as developed in accordance with the site plan approval. 4, except as specifically provided herein, the provisions of the zoning ordinance relating to the underlying zoning districts not otherwise impacted by this section shall continue to remain in full force and effect in the event of any conflict between the provisions of this section and any other provisions of the zoning ordinance. The provisions of this section shall govern and control. C, the authority of the permit granting authority. The City Council shall be the permit granting authority. A simple majority vote is required pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9. Site plan approval shall require a simple majority vote. So this is my first question. Does the City Council want site plan approval, or do we want to just be special permit approval and let site plan?
Favor of maintaining authority with our council, so I would be fine with keeping it as it is to continue to keep us as the site plan, I guess not granting authority, but the site plan approval authority, but happy to have further discussion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other opinions?
Madam Chair?
I'm not a fan. After having gone through this personally, I would just rather have site plan do it, but Councilor Ossing.
So as we know, we don't do any site plan votes on this council until the site plan actually tells us what we're supposed to do. So it really is in line with Councilor Faccilla's saying it maintains our overall authority, but we don't we don't do the plumbing and all the details that site plan does. We rely on them. So again, I'm following, and I guess I'm on a correction, Mr. Attorney Buckley, I'm following the executive overlay district wording. Is that how you modeled the plan or the zoning change? Yeah,
The
so,
difference between this and Marlboro Hills or the others, that was really master planning of an entire,
right.
and this, you already have this template in place.
Right, and Results Way also has the
Results
council
Way,
being
yeah,
site
right,
plan
yeah.
approval and special
Right,
permit. It's
right.
just, that's the one that, and
But it
even,
was so comprehensive that at the time, if some of the councils could remember, it was really, you wanted to maintain control because it was an entire section of the city. So when I drafted that, I wanted to make sure that everything, one way or another, came through the council. Now, Madam Chair, to your point earlier about when I made the comments about how we would work on retail to keep the council advised of how we're doing and whatever, I do think it's important to have the council informed, because we will make commitments on the housing, the diversity, and I think that as councilors, you should have that. So we could bifurcate it. The technical could go to the site plan review, but there could be an obligation and a permit to periodically advise the council as to how we're doing in terms of those other issues.
okay, so my sense of this committee is that we want to keep section H. The city council may elect by simple majority vote to vary the dimensional, location, and number of parking spaces, design, and landscaping requirements upon finding that such change shall result in an improved design and will not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent. We're talking about a site plan is simple majority, but a special permit is a 2/3 vote. So the special permit could have the dimensional, location, number of parking spaces, and landscaping varied, but it's not a simple majority. So,
Well, if I may.
Yes.
When you're going through the site plan process, and you're presenting a site plan or special permit application to the council for consideration, you'll see that there are dimensional requirements in terms of parking, design, et cetera. You may look at that and say, you know what, if we would have moved the parking over here, it makes for a much better site. So it's not after you've granted the permit, it's during the process.
so are you okay with removing may elect by simple majority vote and just have it the city council may vary?
That's fine if you want to do
And
it.
then figure out whether it's site plan, which is 2/3, or special permit, which is, we still have to approve the special
Right. No,
permit.
that's fine if you
And I
want.
know we
just want
varied.
the flexibility, because a lot of communities have found, and there are a lot of communities now adopting this type of an approach, that when you're going through the project, you know, locating of parking or, you know, landscaping island here makes more sense than over there, that rather than having to go back to square one and start that during the process, they could say, we think this makes a better project by putting it over here. And that's your call. But yeah, varies fine, and you can determine how you want to do it.
Okay, then my other question is on page 6 of
Madam
this.
Chair,
Yes, I'm sorry, Councilor Austin.
Before you leave that, Madam Chair, but if you eliminate the words by simple majority vote, it aligns with what's in the executive overlay district.
It does align, okay, so we're all okay with eliminating, it would just read, the city council may vary the dimensional, does that work? All right, under, what page are we on? Under F, the parking, no, under G, design standards. 3 is landscaping. Landscaping shall conform to the provisions of 650-47 landscaping. So if it has to conform, can we vary it? Or do those two things conflict?
If it conflicts, then this controls. So
But they're both in the same zoning language. One says we can vary, one says you have to conform.
that we will conform initially to it, but during the process, applicant out front, that you should conform to this design criteria. As you're going through the process, the applicant may say, if we were to do something different, then it would enhance the project, and then it's the call of the council. So you have the authority to alter that during the process.
Okay, so if you look at the parking provisions. Couldn't that same language be in G3 except for,
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I mean,
Yep.
I guess I would leave it up to legal to decide if they conflict, or if in fact, just because it says it in one place doesn't mean we can't do it in the other.
The only comment there, Madam Chair, if I could, that on the parking, I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but for instance, 1.5 per dwelling unit, 3 for commercial.
Right, yeah, you already have your, except the provisions that you're looking to vary or specified here, and you might not for the landscaping. All right, and then the final question is, as part of a modification pursuant to subsection H, which is really your modifications after approval. So why would you ever come after something's been approved and ask to vary the dimensional location, number of parking, and landscaping? We've approved it already.
Yeah, there may be a major change either in the marketplace. I mean, for instance, while this is retail and housing, 7 years ago, office space was, if I told you office would be upside down, you'd tell me I was crazy. And now office buildings are being modified and altered to try to attract tenants and make major changes to the plan. So you make the determination whether it's a major or minor. If it's major, you have to go through the whole process again. But what we're saying is that you don't want to forestall or eliminate the ability to adapt to changing economic conditions or changing market conditions, but you don't want to lose control at the same.
So if you're varying the dimensional location, number of parking spaces, and landscape,
I'm trying to think, moving the handicap from one location to another to be more convenient. That's technically a change in the plan, but generally that's a minor modification.
all right.
Madam Chair.
Councilor Ossing.
So again, that section H, again, is word for word what's in the executive overlay district, and if you recall, the wording is the same.
We were just, and I compliment you for having that, because we're just trying to avoid a situation where the market changes dramatically and everyone's paralyzed and you can't respond.
Okay. I will leave it there. I know the solicitor has it. I had a question on it, so we'll see if he's okay
No,
with the
that's
language
fine.
when it type development of the Marlborough City Code. An application for a special permit for a use in the FSROD shall comply with the requirements of 650-59 of the zoning ordinance. D, the eligible uses. Number 1, the following uses are permitted by right in the FSROD. A, uses allowed by right in the underlying, which is limited industrial district, as set forth in the table of use regulations, including but not limited to offices, banks, insurance, and financial institutions, and brew pubs. B, accessory uses as defined in 655B of the zoning ordinance, including not limited to above-ground and underground parking garages on the same lot as the principal use, community amenities, parentheses, business center, indoor-outdoor recreational uses, fitness studio, or the like, in parentheses. And 2, the following additional uses are permitted by special permit in the FSROD. A, multifamily dwellings. So here's where we would put a limit. Do we want,
Yeah.
Councilor Ossing?
So you're spot on, Councilor Roby. So in the executive overlay district, it says multi-family dwellings, provided that the total number of units within the entire, in this case, it would be the FSORD, shall not exceed, enter your number. So that wording does need to be here to put some context as to how big the complex, or how many units the council, if they approve it, wants to authorize.
And in what we were shown at the public hearing, again, those are always just proposals, but they did have Building A having 210 and Building B having 240. If we go with 250 as our max, how they design it later is really up to us
250 or
when we get to the
450.
special permit.
250 or 450?
I'm sorry, 450, I can't add. And we can decide if we want to deal with the planning board's recommendation that it's 400 with the option to include an additional 50 if they're townhome-style units, or if we want to deal with that issue at the special permit phase.
Again, you are correct, because I don't think you want to get into the details now, because you might want, 9 buildings with 50 units each? I mean, who knows what the council's purview or what the developer thinks is going to be suitable at the time that they come before us with a project. Buildings are going to put it in, how many units are going to be in the building, and then we get to decide whether we like it or not.
Madam Chair, if I could comment, it would be by special permit, so you would have the discretion to comment on the design, but if we have the 450, we're going to try to have a diversity of product, but we just don't know at this point what that would be, and so the council would have, by special permit, the discretion to say yay and nay at that point.
Right, so I will make sure I have the language. It's, Lazat Drive has, by special permit, multifamily dwellings, including multiple dwellings on a single lot, provided the total number of multifamily dwellings shall not exceed 250. So that was a little bit different, but if you want to read it one more time, and we'll make sure everybody agrees.
Sure. So as it states now, it says multifamily dwellings, and then it'll be comma, provided that the total number of units within the entire FSORD shall not exceed 450.
Okay,
That's
so was that okay for, Councilor Prociato says no. That's too many for you?
Too many for me, Counselor. I would like to take the recommendation from the board and do 400 units, limited to 400 units and 50 townhomes.
So how do we get 400 and then the additional 50? It's all by, this is by special permit. You're not going to special permit 400 and then special permit an additional 50 that are only townhouse. They're going to want townhouse, they might want more than 50 townhouses. They might, so as Councilor Ossing said, and I think I would agree, for the zoning piece, we just want the maximum number. We'll deal with the weeds when the special permit comes in.
Understood. I would still like to limit it at 400 units then.
400
Not
total.
specify townhomes. 400 total.
All right. I mean, we can have the discussion. How does anybody else feel? I mean, we were shown a proposal that had 450. That doesn't mean that's what we approve. Councilor Fucillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're taking the words out of my mouth there. I think, right, we've seen a proposal that, again, we're in the zoning phase, so take it with what you will. But that proposal does anticipate 450 units, right, in good faith. I am comfortable with that number. I think the way that President Ossing had provided, right, that is our max, and we'll get into the details when the special permit is before us. So I'm comfortable with 450. And I'm more than happy to have that conversation down the road when a special permit's before us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think a majority of the folks here, one of the things that I find compelling about taking up this zoning, this conversation we've had before, is a similar conversation that we had with Lazat, is what this actually can achieve by incentivizing developers to come in and help a problem that we have with some of our lower class office buildings and help convert made. I think what you guys are seeing out there in the market, it is a tough market. We do want to be able to find out, we don't want to overbuild something, but we want to know what it is going to take to actually build it. You know, everybody understands the cost of money these days is not cheap, and it certainly doesn't seem to be getting any cheaper out there. So I think that in this phase, when we are talking about the zoning, I think putting the 450 cap that's been identified is, and we can certainly negotiate a little bit further when we do get to the special permit. Excuse me. So I would support the 450 in the zoning piece. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so it looks like not, I don't know, do we need a vote? Because this is going to go forward, I think, as a total package. Councilor Fucillo?
Madam Chair, I would move to amend Section 2A to say multifamily dwellings, comma, provided that the entire number of units within the FSROD shall not exceed 450 units.
And it's been moved to amend 2A as just read through. Is there discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. So it's, and those opposed? So it still does carry, so that will be changed. The next 2B is restaurant, cafe with or without table service, including outside seating and service without drive-through. C, a restaurant, cafe with or without table service, including outside seating and service with drive-through, provided that said facilities have no dedicated driveway with a curb cut on a public way. So with this one, I question, because in limited industrial, this is not allowed,
Correct.
a drive-through. So you are asking us to allow it by special permit, even though the code doesn't allow it in the underlying district.
Because, Madam Chair, the introductory paragraph, the following additions are permitted by special permit. And the reason for that is that in the perfect world, if we do this correctly, you're going to have office, some retail, some mixed use. You want to activate it, but we're not taking it off a public way. We're not taking it off it's going to be internal to the site. So trying to control and create a sense of identity.
Sports and fitness clubs, indoor or outdoor, and related facilities. E is retail sales and services, which is both under 75 square feet and over 75 square feet, are all special permit currently in the LI. Distilleries with attached restaurants. G is accessory solar in, I'm questioning, uses allowed by special permit in the underlying zoning district. So I don't know what that has, but I went through, the underlying zoning district has a whole lot of allowed by special permit that I'm not sure I want allowed. I mean, I suppose we can deny the special permit, but hotels are one of them, and I'm not sure that I want a hotel in this little subdivision. I don't know that I want outdoor storage, a shopping mall. These are all allowed by special permit. And I looked at Results Way. Results Way has a whole list of uses set forth as follows are expressly prohibited. And I don't know if we want to, you don't really have anything that's prohibited list. Do we want one, or do we want to leave this H there and then we can deny stuff we don't want when it comes to a special permit, which then we have to deal with them filing a lawsuit? So I'm going to go to Councilor Preciado first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would make a motion to remove H, uses allowed by special permit in the underlying zoning district. I believe by allowing things like this, including C, it sets a precedence for the applicants to come in, and this council more than likely is usually in favor of things that applicants propose. When it comes to council, I feel like the council does feel like they are forced to make these decisions and say yes to the applicants. So I would just make a motion to remove that.
And I guess I would agree, except that I'm not sure, because it's the underlying district, so I don't know how we can do this. Councilor Ossing.
Again, sound like a broken record, but the exact same language, is in the executive overlay district, which was.
Did they have any exclusions where you can't have these specific things?
Nope.
Because it's, I mean,
So the only one that's not in, and I guess
in item one?
Allowing it by right.
oh, it's by right, okay, all right. Yep, no, you are correct, okay, yep, that's correct, never mind.
But
I'm sorry, I didn't,
a brew pub.
oh, the brew hub.
That's by right as an accessory use.
Yep. You are correct, sorry about that.
But
Yeah, which
when
would then be a use allowed by special permit, because,
if the special permit use is in, again, you have broad discretion as a special permit. One of the findings, I believe, is it has to be compatible with the neighborhood. If it's not compatible, I don't care what you think about an appeal, but courts are going to defer to the council or the permit granting authority as making that determination. Again, zoning should be predictable but flexible. And we're trying to be predictable but also flexible because things could change dramatically.
okay, would you object to having the similar language to expressly prohibited? And I can read through, but first we got to deal with, there was a motion from Councilor Preciado. Is there a second? No, okay, so I guess we're leaving uses allowed by special permit.
But if there are certain uses you want prohibited, you can run them off and
What the Results Way had are adult entertainment, including an adult bookstore, video store, paraphernalia, tattoo, body piercing parlors and shops, dye works, biosafety level 4 laboratories as defined by the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And I think that was,
none of those bother us. We'd agree to that.
they had more. Establishments for construction in such services, but not limited to building maintenance, plumbing, landscaping, electrical, masonry, carpentry, well drilling, electroplating, hazardous and toxic chemical manufacturer, trucking terminal, automotive sales and service, retail gasoline stations, commercial bakeries, on-site sales and rental of heavy machinery, laundry and dry cleaning establishments except drop-off, which I think you specify as, or did you specify? No. Any activity or use directly or indirectly involving the dispensing, use, sale, growing, storage, or transportation of medical marijuana, including medical marijuana treatment center, and any on-site facility or clinic devoted to the treatment of substance addiction, including narcotic detox and/or maintenance facility.
I'll defer to the client, but from a legal standpoint, those seem to be incompatible with what we're trying to achieve.
They do or don't?
They do. Incompatible.
Madam Chair.
Councilor
So
Ossing.
again, go back up to the top, number 2. The following additional uses are permitted by a special permit. Then when you go to H, uses allowed by a special permit in the underlying zoning district. So the underlying zoning, again, that nothing's changed. I mean, that's, all they're saying is you need a special permit to do things above, which aren't allowed in an LI district, but just reinforcing the fact that if you're going to do something in an LI that needs a special permit, you have to get a special permit. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right, is everybody okay with the language as is? So just leaving it uses allowed by special permit, and we'll deal with them as they come to us. Okay, thank you for your indulgence in my. I is mixed-use development consisting of a combination of by right or special permit residential business uses as listed in this section. Number 3, all uses not specified in subsection D1 and 2 above shall be deemed prohibited in the FSROD. Number 4, once an FSROD project or phase receives site plan or special permit approval, A, an individual as-of-right use within the FSRO project or phase may be changed without further site plan approval unless such change would otherwise require site plan approval under section 270-2 of the Marlborough City Code or modification to a site plan approval under subsection H3. So can you explain or kind of give me what would you want to change?
Well,
Maybe change without further
if you change the configuration of the building, that's a site plan modification. The use may be permitted, but you still have to go through site plan because you're changing site circulation, you're changing parking. Whatever you would require today under your site plan review, we're saying we're subject to that. If it's just doing a grocery store for a dry goods store, it's retail for retail, that's as of right. So not changing the building, not changing the skin, it probably doesn't require site plan approval.
So why, but you still have to come back to either the building commissioner or the
To
city
make the
council.
determination if it's major
So
or minor.
this to me says you can just do it without any approval.
If the building commissioner says that this is merely a change of as-of-right use for one as-of-right use, making no changes that require building or site circulation around the parking lot, this may have to go to the council to be determined, or the site plan review to see, is this major or minor? So it's a two-step process. But we're not changing anything that doesn't exist today. You'd have to do that today.
Okay, and again, this is a question I have for legal.
It's going to look like, and they have to follow the plans. And
Right.
if they deviate from the plans, they need building commissioner weigh in. And if it's minor, the building, well, will be site plan, we'll end up getting a thumbs up at some point. But if it's major, then it comes back for a special permit for 8 votes. And, again, you hate hearing this, it's the exact same wording in the executive overlay district.
This is there, the exact same wording? All right.
As you're reading, I'm following along the executive overlay district.
Yeah, and
I could be reading this from the
This
executive
is
overlay.
not in Results Way, and it's,
Yeah, I don't think Results Way is a fair comparison, because
Oh,
it's two
yeah,
different
it's-
concepts.
That was really master planning.
but
for-
it's still, almost everything else except for this is not in there. And then B of that is an individual use already granted a special permit within the FSRO project or phase may be changed upon the grant of a new or modified special permit as appropriate for that changed use and will be subject to site plan approval. Provided, however, if the change is to an as-of-right use in the FSROD, no further site plan approval is required, unless such change would otherwise require site plan approval under Section 270-2 of the Marlborough City Code or modification to a site plan approval under subsection H3. So, I mean, these, to me, seem like they're really duplicating modifications, which say if you want to modify something you've been approved, you either need building commissioner to approve a minor, or you need the council to approve a major.
Madam Chair, what we're trying to do is articulate the procedures, so there's no confusion on the part of in the city. I would submit these are what the city does today. What we're trying to say, be it this developer or someone else, if you have a special permit use, the council grants us a special permit use to occupy a building, build a building, and 5 years from now, you say, we're going to change the use to a use that's permitted as of right. Well, you don't have to get another special permit because you're going from a special permit to an as of right use. You're not changing anything. So under your procedures, you go through the process of the building commissioner or whatever. It's just articulating what probably occurs, say. We're not trying to change anything.
Okay, all right. The point that you just brought up, I guess, to me, that doesn't even seem like it's possible. If we've given you a special permit, that special permit goes to this, but
No, if you change the use, then that special permit is
what I'm
being
saying, I don't
abandoned.
think you can change the use, but I'm not the legal, so again, this is a question for legal
Okay, no,
department. We'll
that's fine.
see. And if it's already in one, we'll see.
Verbatim, word for word.
All right. C, the special permit and/or site plan approval shall be deemed to have been vested upon the issuance of a building permit other than a demolition permit for all or any portion of the FSRO project or phase. And I guess I had forgotten, I threw in,
So, Madam Chair, this
Somewhere
is
else.
not in the executive overlay district, so it'd be
All right.
interesting to have what the applicant says.
If you,
I had put in somewhere else to add in a demo permit. It was back in location development phasing. Within the FSRO, an applicant shall submit a site plan. And I said, do we want to add in language, no demo permit allowed until site plan or special permit has been approved? And that was really just going with the
I'm sorry,
recommendation
that nothing
of,
would be allowed until site, what?
until,
What can't,
Demolition permit?
demolition
you
permit?
can't, because currently there's nothing in the code about a demolition permit that says you can't apply for one. You can apply for one anytime.
Right.
Planning board is suggesting that we not allow you to demo something without a site plan or a special permit
I want to preserve the
first.
value of the taxes, yep.
So I wasn't sure where to put it. I figured it could go in location development phasing number 2, where you talk about you have to submit a site plan or special permit application for the entire site plan has been approved. Does that work for
so-
everybody?
I mean, I'd have, Madam Chair, I would have legal review it.
See if they want it
I'm seeing
somewhere
it for the
else.
first time, well, as part of this news, so I don't, legal says it's okay, guess I'm okay.
My sense is that because there's been talk in the marketplace on buildings that are not responsive, just scrape them, take them down. And communities don't want to do that because
No,
it does have a negative impact on
We're
tax.
seeing it across the street.
But the purpose, I think there was a comment as to C, a lot of communities, the case law has said that what is execution? The case law says execution is detrimental reliance, when I've started to change my position based upon the grant of a permit. So I go and I spend $10,000 for plans, or I do site grading, whatever. I'm starting to rely on that permit. Pieces of this simultaneously. You know, maybe we're doing the housing, and we're doing, that spurs some retail, and that spurs some office use. It's all going on at once. The likelihood of being able to do that in 2 years is pretty remote. I mean, it's probably going to take 3 or 4 years to do all the components, so 4 years. And we want the lenders who are financing this to say, the permit's going to stay in place. Once you start and you get your building permit, it's vested. You know, so you can, it may take 3 or 4 years, but it's all going on, and you don't have the fear of losing the permit.
And I think this is language that legal's going to
Legal
have
should
to
look
look
at
at
it. I'm
because
sure that they'll
the next
understand it.
page has even more concerning, where you get into the 6 years kind of thing. To me, the special permit is, once it's approved and there's no appeal, that starts the clock. You've got
Well,
3
that-
years.
I would like to agree with that, but there is some argument that what does, theoretically, you have to record the permit to trigger the activation of it. But what you want to, let's take a situation now. Let's assume we're going to do an office building, for sake of discussion. We get a special permit to do the office building.
But you don't need a special permit, you only need site plan, so.
Pick a building you need a special permit for. Multifamily, right in front of us, okay? So we say, okay, we're coming in for a multifamily special permit. No one is going to spend, the developer is going to spend all of the money to do the final construction drawings to support that permit until the permit's granted, right? Because you're putting money out where we don't have a permit. You could be spending $1 million to do construction drawings and not have a permit because the council hasn't voted.
Right, but
So
you
now-
would need the final drawings for site plan approval.
Not construction drawings. There's a difference between site plan and construction. So now the council approves whoever it is, the council approves a special permit. We get site plan. We're ready to go. We go to the architects and say, we're ready to go, let's do the construction drawings and get moving. The architect is likely to say, well, it's probably going to take 10 to 12 months to do the construction drawings. So already you've eaten into a year of the 3 years. You say, okay, once we get the construction drawings, we get the building permit, it may take 3-4 years to execute the development of the project, to build it all, to do the infrastructure, the roads, the buildings, because again, this is one area, it's not just one building in an area. With master planning the whole area, we could be building simultaneously and doing infrastructure. It could be a 3 or 4 year project.
And again, I guess
And legal,
this
I'd be
is,
more than
yeah,
happy
this
to
is
talk
up
to
to
the
the
solicitor.
legal.
I'm sure that
When I
they'll-
talked to them today,
We're
they
doing
made it-
nothing other than make sure that it's a reality and no one gets hurt in the process.
Yeah, because he looked it up, the code says 2 years for site plan, 3 years
Yes, right.
for special permit.
The question becomes, when does it vest?
I would think it's vested as soon as the appeal period is over, but we, other than one special permit that we have, we've never had an issue where they haven't been built and they've actually,
Completed it in the time period allowed?
well, it doesn't have to be completed, you have
Well,
to
that's
start
what
digging.
we're trying to protect. You know, it doesn't say that in the statute, it says 3 years, a permit's good for 3 years.
Right, you need to have shovels in the ground at the end of
The
3
statute
years.
doesn't say that, that's why we're trying to be
That's
clear.
what legal is saying, that was their.
Well, no, I agree with them. That's the detrimental reliance. Once you've relied, but, and the courts have held that, But we're trying to be cautious here and say, okay, there could be 2 or 3 projects going on simultaneously. We're just trying to protect everyone.
Right, and I think we're getting ahead of ourselves to the next section. It's now, does the demolition permit that the planning board is suggesting that you shouldn't have until
Building
the
permit.
special permit application has been approved?
Yeah, that's
Does it
fine.
belong in C? Does it belong where I suggested maybe we can just ask legal to put it in there somewhere?
that's
And you're
fine.
okay with
It-
having that in there? And
Right.
everybody's okay with having it somewhere in there? All right, so D, the applicant shall apply for the first building permit for vertical construction within 3 years of the date of issuance of the special permit and/or site plan approval for the FSRO project or phase. This is the questionable part. If within 6 years from the date of the issuance of a special permit and/or site plan approval, not applied for all building permits necessary for the construction of the project or phase approved by the special permit or site plan approval granting authority, then further construction under the special permit or site plan approval is not authorized unless the applicant seeks and received an amendment to the special permit or site plan approval.
Speak to the solicitor, but the intent here is really to protect the city. Because what you want to avoid here is, if you're trying to do fiscal planning, and you know that you have an approved project at Results Way, that and you start baking those numbers into your fiscal analysis, what you're going to have. If someone sits on the permit for 5, 6, 7 years and it never happens, and they say, you know what, we're not going to do it now, we can't, office is no longer viable, so we're not going to do it. So you've been banking on that anticipated revenue. What we're saying here is you can't sit on a permit for a long period of time. It's going to, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So, but I'll speak to
And I
the
guess
solicitor.
I would argue, and the legal department would argue, you lose it after 3 years.
Again, but the question becomes, when does it vest? I'll speak to the solicitor.
Okay. Anybody else have questions on there? All right, number 5, multifamily dwellings in the FSROD shall be subject to 65026 affordable housing and the zoning ordinance, notwithstanding anything set forth in 65026 to the contrary, including without limitation the provisions set forth in 65026-1B, which is actually, there's 2 parts of this. There's 1A, that's at least 12% of the dwelling units be affordable to households earning not more than. B is 80% of the area median income, but the solicitor will fix that. The city council shall have the discretion to vary such affordability upon a finding that such action advances the city's housing objectives to modify the required affordability mix applicable to the particular development. And the solicitor's initial comment was, no, you cannot vary. It is 12% and it's 80% AMI. So we weren't sure whether you wanted to increase the 12%, decrease the 12%, increase the 80, decrease the 80.
If I could comment on that, Madam Chair.
Sure.
There's a lot of debate going on, primarily arising out of the city of Boston and the city of Cambridge, where they went up to, I believe it's now almost 20%?
Yeah,
20%.
It's 20%.
And if you drive through downtown Boston, there are no cranes in the sky anymore. It's killed the market in terms of housing.
Yep.
So what we were trying to do here is say, look, these are, Marlboro doesn't have I believe your SHI, your subsidized housing inventory, you're above 10%. So
We are, yes.
So this is just qualifying units to be on the inventory. For instance, on the MBTA communities, you can't go beyond 10% because they were finding that beyond 10% people weren't doing the deals, and you weren't achieving housing. What we're trying to do here is say, it's 12% as your ordinance says today, but going forward, the city may say 12% doesn't work. We have to make it.
We used to have 15%, we went down to 12, and it's basically to maintain that any new construction that comes into the city, we always stay above our 10%.
Yeah,
Because
no,
we have some
Right.
of our affordable units that aren't, 99 years or whatever, they're gonna fall off in 5 or 10 years from now. So that's why that number was selected. I would argue, Madam Chair, we can let the solicitor look at it, But if you go back again to the executive overlay district, it's just that first sentence. We follow what's in our zoning ordinance. Because once I start saying, you get 15 or you get 10 and the next guy gets 20, I've now messed it up and I don't have a policy, because why did this one get more or this one got less? We have a policy that says 12, and that's what the council
Extremely
should
valid
stick with.
point. I can't argue against that, so, I mean,
Yep, so my guess is that the solicitor's going to remove the city council shall
yeah.
have discretion, because they don't feel that we do. It's 12%. E, dimensional requirements. Notwithstanding any provisions of the zoning ordinance to the contrary, development in the FSROD shall be subject to the following dimensional standards: minimum lot area, none. And I don't think the planning board had anything on that one. Minimum lot frontage 50 feet. Minimum front yard setback 20 feet from a public way only. And this was what I wasn't sure. The planning board suggesting increase the required perimeter property line setbacks from
Sidelines?
20 to 50. The only one that's listed as 20 is this one, and it's only a front yard setback. It's not, yeah, which would be minimum lot frontage, minimum yard setback, and a side and rear yard setbacks, which you have at 25 feet, because they're saying from 20 to 50. The only 20 is the minimum front yard setback.
Because all the internal, it's all internal.
It's the public ways. Well, I don't think we have any problem with the 50 feet along the perimeter. If you want to add along the property, the perimeter of this district shall be 50 feet, that's fine. It's
Because
internally
I
that,
don't think in the dimensional requirements, it doesn't talk about perimeter frontage, or no perimeter,
you can add it, you can
but
say,
what's the difference between perimeter and front yard,
because
side and rear
you're
yard?
going to have
Madam.
internal private ways.
Madam Chair, it's taking into consideration the public ways, I believe. So when there are public ways, that is not accounting for the perimeter, it's accounting for the public way where it is.
25 feet from a public way only. Yeah, I mean, that one, that preference from planning board was confusing to me. I don't know what they want.
Is the, so you're saying that 50 feet setback would not hinder your construction whatsoever? So why don't we just remove these minimum front and the side and rear and just change it all to 50 feet from the perimeter? And clean it up, satisfy the planning board. And the applicant seems to have no problem with it.
I mean, C and D say public way only, so if it had 50 feet from public way only. I mean,
And that's what
It's
the
essentially the same
executive
thing.
led to public way.
Or do we care whether it's only 20 feet? Because we had already said we could vary the dimensions, and this is one of the variations when it's specified here.
I think the planning board's intention is to preserve the view from any public way in similar fashion they did with Forest and Ames. They had
But
the
it's-
same, similar suggestion.
They're not talking public way, they're just talking perimeter property line setbacks. And there is no such thing as a perimeter property line setback. It's front, rear, and side. I mean, that, taken together, that's the perimeter, but they're all
But
different.
the perimeter abuts the public ways. Yeah, the internal are not public ways. Is it Washington Street, Forest Street? and
Forest
what's
Street and
it?
Williams.
Williams. The perimeter runs along Forest Street and Williams. So that's why we put the public way, you know. We want to make that,
So are we okay with adding in two factors? So I don't even know why would you exempt? Well, I guess because they're already there, and I have no idea what they are. And I'm okay with doing nothing with that recommendation of the planning board. Does anybody else feel like they really want to deal with it?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to change yard setback 25 feet from a public way to 50 feet from a public way only. And the applicant has no issue with that.
All right, and I'm sorry, because I can't hear you, so I don't know if it's that you need to get closer, or if I need my, I don't like wearing that when I'm doing most of the talking. So take it,
Yeah.
B, you want to, minimum lot frontage currently says 50, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Minimum front yard is 20, you want to change that to
50?
50, keeping the from a public way.
Correct.
And then side and rear is 25, keep that
Change it to 50 from a
50.
public way.
from a public way, okay. So it's been moved and seconded to change E1, C, and D. 20 will become 50, 25 will become 50. Is there discussion? Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, okay. All right, thank you all for that one. Minimum building height is 80 feet, no limitations on stories. Results Way
Maximum.
has a limit of 70, and you had said,
No, you want maximum, not, the minimum is they're gonna build skyscrapers, it's the max, you want the maximum building height.
well, Results Way has a limit on residential of 70 feet. You said that one had 60?
No, it's executive overlay has 80 feet, maximum building height 80 feet, no limitation on stories. Same exact wording.
Okay, so the planning board is suggesting 60 feet. The height of the existing structure, which if you're going to knock it down, then, I mean, if you're only going to renovate, you wouldn't increase the height anyway, but if you're going to knock it down, the max would be 60 feet inclusive of spires and towers. To me, those are different than mechanicals. I believe
Yeah.
there's specific language in the code that says mechanicals don't count in the height.
Right, we'd like to say exclusive of mechanicals and screened mechanicals.
So exclusive of mechanicals, but we don't want,
Rooftop
we don't need to include the inclusive of spires and towers.
No, we don't know what that means.
Yeah, well, I guess they're talking of fancy stuff on the top of a roof, which I'm not even sure that counts with the building height. So, are we okay with changing the maximum building height to top mechanicals? Okay.
Second.
Counselor Preciado?
Second that.
What, you can move, I can't move to anything, so you're, I'm not really keeping track, I just, do we need to take a vote? Well, he moved it, I'll second it, all those in favor? 60 feet exclusive of roof, wrong.
We're on opposite ends over here. Just one question there, we are maintaining that the no limitation on stories, correct? Even with that amendment, that language will still be included.
Yeah, I don't think stories has any, I think typically a story is a certain height, so then you figure out the stories based on the total height of the,
That we do, I just want to confirm that that language still is maintained.
and we're going to keep, all right, so everybody's okay with keeping the no limitation on stories, which I think they're two different issues. I'd rather have height and not stories.
I agree.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Maximum lot coverage, 60% over the entire FSROD on an aggregate basis and not based upon individual lots, which I think still matches the code. 60% is the maximum coverage. All right, number 2 is exception. There shall be no front, side, or rear yard setback requirements or planting strips required as to internal lot lines within the FSROD. So that one is confusing to me because I don't know if we just set minimum.
Well, this is internal now, so we're doing the setbacks from the public way. So now we may check, let's think of it, checkerboarding the internal, we may have a building here that abuts another building, it's internal driveways. So that one building may be closed and set back, but they're not public ways.
All right, and to me, none of this is going to be public way. I think that's
Right, that's
another
right.
change
That's
in the
right.
language that if, hopefully, we haven't missed. But I guess the planting strip concerns me because I don't want to make Priscilla mad. I know she's very adamant that parking lots have planting strips between them. If we're saying that there shall be no planting strips, will not make her happy. So I may be okay with the no front, side, or rear yard set of your parking lots, which are going to be internal anyway.
But those are going to be subject to your review anyhow.
Counselor Preciado.
I'll make a motion to remove planting strips required. There
So
shall be no planting strips required. Remove planting strips.
Counselor Preciado moved, second, all those in favor of that? Okay. 3, exception, the limitation on height of buildings shall not apply to building mechanicals, chimneys, ventilators, towers, silos, spires, or other ornamental or screening features of buildings, which features are in no way used for living purposes. This is probably where their silos and spires comes from.
Take those out then.
So, only the first part, the limitation on height of buildings should not apply to building mechanicals, period?
And chimneys, ventilators are the air exchanges.
Okay,
And so I would say, take out towers, silos, spires, or ornamental, or we can keep that in because you want them screened.
but it has to be screened anyway,
Yeah.
so, okay. Which I think pretty much is covered under the exclusive of rooftop mechanicals, but we'll keep that in there. Number 4, internal lot lines may be established pursuant to a subdivision plan filed in accordance with the Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 81K. Lot lines may be altered from time to time in accordance with the procedures of Section 81P of Chapter 41 of MGL for so-called approval not required plans, and are applicable provisions of Section 81K through 81GG of Chapter 41 of Mass General Laws for any subdivision within the FSROD. Any single lot line within the FSROD may be deficient with one or more of the dimensional requirements contained therein, so long as all the lots within the FSROD taken in the aggregate comply with the standards contained herein. This one was confusing to me because this is not a subdivision.
No, but you may have to create legal lots for different parties may own various parcels. And-
Right, which I get the A&R part, I just didn't get the subdivision part.
But we don't know how they're going to break up. You may have to do a subdivision. You may not build out the roadway. You may do a paper subdivision. You're all going to own them, so we have to create a way to convey title to you. But you can have a paper subdivision, not build it out to create the legal lot.
Okay, so again, this is
So
one of
solicitor will
the
understand.
legal needs to look at, because I don't know that they were sure what you wanted out of this one. And then 5 is for purpose law, as more particularly set forth in 650-41F1 of the zoning ordinance, or along an access easement which shall consist of a paved way that allows vehicular access connecting to a public right-of-way or subdivision. And I didn't mark it, but the solicitor wanted the language that was in of course, the one that because none of this is going to be public, so
Right.
it would just be,
You can have a private way, an approved subdivision way that's private for public purposes.
well, yeah, because he said access has nothing to do whether it's public or private.
You have to maintain them
But
and
none of this, at least as far as I'm concerned, would ever be
accepted by the
approved
city.
as a public road by the city.
Right.
So there was language in the results way that he preferred.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. The intent is that you can have a private subdivision way for public purposes for access.
Yeah. So again, I think that will be one of the things that he will look at, that one, to make sure that it makes it clear that this is all private. Okay, we are at F, parking requirements. Except as otherwise provided in this section, parking and circulation requirements in the FSRD shall conform to the provisions of 650-48, 650-49 of the zoning ordinance. Number 1, in the FSRD, adequate off-street parking shall be provided. The city council and the applicant shall have as a goal for the purpose of defining adequate off-street parking, making the most efficient use of the parking facilities to be provided, and maximizing or minimizing the area of land to be paved for this purpose. In implementing this goal, the city council shall consider complementary or shared use of parking areas serving activities that have different peak demand times. It is the applicant's responsibility to demonstrate that shared spaces will meet parking demands by using accepted methodologies. Number 2, parking locations. Parking may be provided at ground level, underground, or in parking garages. Parking garages may be freestanding or part of buildings dedicated to other permitted uses. Parking garages may contain accessory solar energy installations. And I know the planning board wanted
To encourage us to look at.
encourage the inclusion of the underground parking. Make you say that it can only be underground.
No.
Number 3 is the minimum required parking spaces. A, residential 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit, commercial 3 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of space, and C, restaurants, cafes, and other parking dimensions. So is everybody okay with 3, A, B, and C? Okay. Page 6 is the parking space dimensions. Each parking space shall be no less than 9 feet by 18 feet, except that the use of compact spaces no smaller than 8 feet by 16 feet may be utilized throughout, provided that no more than 33% of the total parking spaces within the FSRO project or phase shall be compact spaces. The code says that compact spaces can't be intermingled. So I think this will be a legal opinion, whether you can put them all over the place or whether in fact you need to keep them where a building is. So,
Madam Chair?
Councillor Ossing.
So that's word for word what's in the executive overlay district.
Okay, good to know. G, design standards, design criteria, an application for the site plan approval under this section 650 whatever shall adhere to the criteria specified in section 270-2, site plan review and approval of the city code. 2, roadways, to the extent feasible, internal roadways, public and private, shall be constructed using the methods and materials prescribed in the rules and regulations of the subdivision of land in the city, but shall not be required to conform to the subdivision standards or dimensional requirements thereof, provided that those roadways shall be adjacent to the intended vehicular and pedestrian traffic. The design of ways and parking circulation should be as efficient as possible to reduce the overall development impact and areas of impervious surfaces. So, Councillor Ossing, is that match?
The whole section is what, even the next one and the next one and the next one, they're all word
All
for
right,
word.
because Results Way has EF. I hate when all my papers get out of order. 3, 4, E, 5, 6. That's 26. Well, again, it was the issue of that public and private.
Ways are going to be privately maintained, so.
Right, but I think it said public, so that was the concern.
You can remove that.
Yeah, if they're internal and you want to remove the word public, we'll take the word public out. We just want to make sure that people understand that they have access rights. so.
Right, because my concern was, it's going to be a private road, but you're going to let the public on it because you have public, things that the public can use. It's kind of the same as Results Way. They'll want people to go up to use the restaurant, to do the brew pub if that ever happens. So it was the public-private, that it's just that the roadway shall be constructed using the methods was all that they cared about. They didn't care whether they were public or private. G3 is landscaping in the FSROD shall conform to the provisions of 650-47 landscaping, and we already kind of had that conversation. Number 4 is stormwater management. The project or phase shall have a stormwater management system designed in accordance with the rules and regulations. For the subdivision of land in the city, the Department of Environmental Protection Stormwater Management Guidelines and the city's stormwater ordinance, Chapter 271, Stormwater Management of the Marlboro City Code. And number 5 is signage, except as otherwise provided. Signage shall conform to the provisions of Chapter 526 signs. H is modifications. After approval, applicants may seek modifications to any approved special permit or site plan approvals. Where's my page 7? Oh, my goodness. I said I hate doing this because I mess, there it is. 2, special permits. Major modifications to a special permit may be granted by a 2/3 vote of the city council, and minor modifications to a special permit may be granted by the building commissioner. I don't know if I really need to read the rest of this. The building commissioner shall have jurisdiction to determine whether it's a major or minor, and then it just talks about all the typical language for approval may be granted by a simple majority vote of the city council, and minor modifications to a site plan approval may be granted by the building commissioner, and again, the building commissioner shall have jurisdiction to determine whether a requested modification is major or minor. And again, the discussion on minor modification is, I think is there, no, in the special permit is where that language of it has to be filed, but that's not in the zoning. We made it through. Oh my goodness, well, it is a little late. I wasn't sure we'd even get this far.
Madam Chair, I'd like to compliment you. That was very thorough.
Does anybody else have any changes that I missed that they want to go back on? We do have a deadline. This has to be approved by July 27th, doing the 90 days from the public hearing. Our council meeting is July 20th. So there was concern that if it had the 8 votes, but there was somebody objecting to passage in one evening, if this isn't voted on until that July meeting, that we would be stuck. So Councilor Ossing had suggested if we got to that point, we could have a special meeting to then take that follow-up vote.
We'll do whatever the council.
So I have no idea. There are only 5 of us here tonight. I don't know where this is going to stand for a final vote coming out of committee. On Monday, I can move to suspend the rules to refer all of this to the solicitor, so it would be on that July meeting for approval, but then it needs 8 votes. If it gets the 8 votes, but somebody objects, then we need to deal with that aspect. If it doesn't get the 8 votes, then it doesn't pass as the zoning. Is my understanding. The solicitor said he would have to look at the language, but my reading of Mass General Law is it's still 8 votes. The residential piece doesn't qualify. But we'll wait for him to he'll add a quantum vote when
Thank you, Madam Chair. With that, appreciate the conversation tonight. Fantastic job working through this. And I move to approve the zoning change with the amendments tonight, pursuant that it's then referred to the solicitor.
All right, Councilor Frachillo has moved. I will second to approve this session on the motion. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. Those opposed? I'm sorry, was that in favor or opposed? In favor, okay. So the vote's 4-0. So as I said, I will report this out.
4-0 or 5?
4-0 in favor.
Yeah.
Counselor Ossing is not a member of the committee. He will have a vote when it comes to the actual final vote.
Oh, yep.
Our fifth member is not here. Counselor Doucette is the fifth member of the committee.
So procedurally, you have a council meeting on Monday night?
We have a meeting on Monday, and then we don't meet again until July, which is the week before the deadline for this,
20th.
which is sort of fortunate. So we just need to play it by ear. If you get your 8 votes that you need, but somebody objects, which could happen. Counselor Ossing?
Yeah, so just based on, we've got a bond that we've got to approve, and the timelines have been suggested to do it by the 20th. We may have to move the vote up depending on what the timelines are. So we could have a meeting before, but right now we're going to hold to the 20th to vote on the bond. May have to move up. If we do, that would facilitate this, but I'm more concerned about the bond for the school, to make sure that we get that voted on properly and meet the timelines that the MSBA wants.
All right. Yeah, because my understanding was the vote was supposed to happen on the July meeting.
Yeah, June 24th, the MSBA will approve it, and we should be able
To vote on the
The
July
July 20th.
20th meeting.
but
So
unless
you won't-
something, I'm just nervous that they're going to say they want it sooner rather than later. That's what I'm nervous about.
Okay, well so if you have a meeting earlier, then this potentially could be on the agenda for that too. So, all right, with that,
Yeah, should I contact the solicitor to discuss anything?
he may be reaching out to you. He probably won't, I mean, this isn't going to go, well, he'll be putting it in proper form once it's moved on Monday to do that. So he may reach out to you anyway.
I've had discussions with him in the past.
Okay. So is there a motion to
Madam Chair?
adjourn?
Thank you very much for your time and consideration.